Hey, everybody, we are live. It's Rise and Outshine, episode 12. I've got two great shows lined up today, Sugar Spice and a Little Advice with Steph and Diana. And Zabe is here with the Who Will Save Generation X Trivia Game Show podcast. And as you know, on this show, just like all my shows, let's get into that theme music.
We're asking the experts, we're all on a mission to rise in the rankings and outshine the competition. Welcome to Rise and Outshine.
All right, everybody loves that theme song. I see some giggles backstage. I've got a special guest with me tonight, joining me as a judge, Sarah Bradford from the SJ Child Show. Sarah and I are going to be a judge on all shows. And then Zabe is going to run his Who Will Save Generation X as the second show. And Steph and Diana are going to be the first show up tonight, Sugar and Spice and a Little Advice. I want to welcome all my guests to the show. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
Well, you can leave comments as you were watching, and we'll be able to put them up. We see Lori is here already. And while we're doing the shows tonight, I want each of you to go to this. You can either scan the QR code here or type in menti.com and enter this 8-digit code. And what that's going to do is going to connect you. I'm going to do it right now on my phone. Let's see. I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to just go right to my camera. I'm going to scan and pop it up, and you'll see, let's see if it works with the green screen. You can see the same thing and the same type of scoring that you'll be able to do right on your phone. Now, this is on a 10-point scale, and I want to really stress that a 5 is what we're looking for. 1 through 10, 5 is average. So if you get what you expect in audio quality, you get engaging hosts, you get quality of content, just do a 5. A 5 is totally okay. We want to build out a scale that really represents what podcasts are doing right now in the movement.
I think both work.
If we love everybody and we give everybody 10s, we have no direction on what to improve on, right? So if 5s are baseline average, and that's great. If you get 5s down the board, you're on track. You're doing great things. But if what they do, if the quality of content blows you away, maybe that's a 6 or a 7. So we don't want to just give out 9s and 10s, and we don't want to just give out 1s and 2s. We want to really get a scale to really help our hosts, rise and outshine. That's what this show is about. So let me introduce my judge tonight, because I have no float or rhythm tonight. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Hello. Jeff, thanks for inviting me to join along with you. I'm excited. I didn't even know what I was in for. Now I'm ready.
Sarah is our guest judge tonight. She, along with myself and the people at home, will be leaving scores for everybody who is participating in shows tonight. Again, you can scan the QR code. You can use that. Just get on your phone. You can leave a score in real time while they're doing the shows. And we're going to come back. We're going to have a word cloud. We're going to have some ideas and just some feedback from all the judges tonight, which means our first show is about to take the stage. Steph and Diana from Sugar and Spice and a Little Advice. Give us a little, what are we going to hear over the next 10 minutes? What can we expect?
Our podcast really talks about a bunch of things, right? So we've done shows on Disney and Disney villains. But we also talk about experiences and different experiences we've had throughout life. Today's episode, we're going to talk about change and when do you know it's time for a change? So yeah.
Sounds good. Well, if you're ready, I'm going to turn the floor over to you and let you take it away. For the next 10 minutes, it's Sugar and Spice and a Little Advice. Steph and Diana, it's all yours.
All right, awesome. Thank you guys for having us. I don't know if you want me to start, Steph, or if you want to start.
No, go for it.
All right, cool. So we decided that we were going to talk about changes today because Steph and I have both recently gone through many changes. I had moved to a different state this year, to 2 different states actually, and I ended up coming back home, and coming back home was a change that I wasn't anticipating, and it was a change that was needed, but I was conflicted about accepting that I needed that change, and it took me a while to understand how badly I needed that change. So yeah, that's why we decided to talk about that today. For me, it's changing in terms of relocating back home, also moving to a different place, a new job, just anything and everything. And it was tough to get there. So yeah.
And changes like that I've gone through just in general throughout this year. The biggest change, I think it's just like a change in location. I moved to a new place after living in the same apartment for like 4 or 5 years. And we just kind of decided to make a transition and get a new space. Um, but I've also gone through like personal changes like throughout this year, and just creating better habits. Because I think habits are sometimes they're good for us, and then other times they're not. So it's kind of identifying those habits, and podcasting has been one of the things that has helped me kind of identify those moments. Um, like I so for instance, like while I was recording like episodes, I kept catching myself saying like right all the time. Like, who are you talking to? Who's validating this right? So yeah, I mean it's and then just improving on public speaking and stuff. Um, but yeah, it's been a lot of changes. Some changes were hard, harder than others, obviously. Um, but yeah, D. By the way, I love having you back. It's only been short weeks so far, but I missed you.
Likewise. Yeah, Steph and I have grown up together, and we actually started our podcast journeys at the same time, even though we're in different
Hmm.
states. So coming back and being able to do this together in real time definitely has been a great, great change. But I also want to touch on what you said, because when I was thinking about change, the first thing I thought about was like the relocation and coming back home and all that stuff. But it, like you were talking about internal changes, and I've gone through some of those too. So I
Hmm.
think it would be good to elaborate on both,
Hmm.
because they're just two different kinds of changes that we go through as people.
Hmm.
So speaking externally about the external changes about relocating and coming back home, and just to share my own story, how that even started, like I moved to a different state, and I was living in my best friend and her husband's home because my best friend was pregnant and I wanted to help out with the baby when he came and, be there for a while. And since I was already there, I was like, you know what, let me try to make the most of being here. Let me see if I can find a job here and, just set roots here since I'm already here. And I didn't really want to come back home at the time. Um, but I couldn't find a job there because I didn't have a car. My car, I ended up having to junk it back in California because that's the first state I moved to when I left here for the first time before going to Tennessee. And so I was limited to like what I could find. I was looking for remote, but I couldn't find remote. And like just that whole situation was super stressful. But the most stressful part was because I was in a new place and my only friends were those two people that just gave birth to a baby. Like, so I can't really rely on them for, the things that I can rely on other people for because they've got their own life, their own family that they're starting. So I was like super lonely and I felt like I didn't want to be there, but at the same time, I was conflicted about should I stay or should I go? Because I didn't want to miss out on a good opportunity of being in a new place and like a better place. And it was super stressful just making the decision to come back home. And something that I noticed, which I was talking to Stephanie about beforehand, is like sometimes you're like conflicted about which way you should go. In this case, for me, it was whether I should stay or leave. For other people, it's not that. It's like it could be something about getting a new job versus staying in a new job or like any two decisions. Sometimes you're like at a crossroads, and I felt like I was at a crossroads and I really didn't know what I was feeling. I like part of me wanted to stay, part of me wanted to go, and I was split down the middle and I had to make a decision. And something that I realized is like really deep down, I really wanted to come back home. I just felt like I needed to stay. And I was kind of ignoring my own tugging, like my own, self telling me no. Like deep inside, I knew that I wanted to come back. And like something that I noticed is when I would see things, I would, like, for example, I was telling Stephanie this, like, when I was in that moment where I was like really conflicted, like I would go outside a lot and spend a lot of time outside because that's just, I'm an outside person. And like something that I would notice when I would look outside and I would look at trees and I would look at leaves, I would notice when there was like a leaf that was a different color. And like
Mhm.
my immediate thought when I saw that was like, oh, that leaf doesn't belong there. And like
Mhm.
thinking about it later on, I was like, my God, I perceived it that way because I felt like I didn't belong where I was. Like I should go back home. And it's cool because like sometimes we're like when we're in that conflicting space and we're trying to figure out what is it that I really want to do. Sometimes like the answers are right in front of us. Like we like reflect the things that we're feeling
Mhm.
on surfaces outside of us, and that's a good indicator, a good way to understand what is it that I'm really feeling, because you will perceive what you feel. So I
Mhm.
thought that was cool. That's something that I kind of learned that's super helpful just moving forward. If I ever have that kind of conflict again, I'm going to pay attention to like my perception externally,
Mhm.
and that'll be a great gauge as to what I really am feeling internally.
What I like is like you talk about like you start picking up on signs, right? Like you're somebody that likes to you look for signs to see if whether you're going like in the right direction or not. And I think like we all kind of do that to some degree, maybe some more than others, and some are more in tune with those perceptions and being aware of like those moments, and like you did where you caught yourself like, wow, I'm projecting that I'm that leaf that's different than everybody else. um but ooh, but yeah, like the ooh, sorry guys, I lost my train of thought.
It happens.
I'm a goofball, I'm sorry. But I mean, it's like finding those like moments, right, where like you're looking for those signs. I catch myself doing something similar, but in different ways, right? So like I may not have I didn't experience moving to a different state, but like you mentioned earlier, like changing work, right? I'm somebody that I like to be challenged. Like I need to be challenged at a job. Um and it's once I get used to something, like it's like, okay, what's the next new thing? It's that shiny object syndrome. That's so real. But it's I've noticed that when I apply and I like, and that's another challenging thing is interviewing, right? Interviewing is part of public speaking. It's like kind of, and you're being vulnerable, right? You're asking somebody to give you an opportunity at a new place, with them not really knowing you, and you have to kind of sell yourself. And I'm not good at selling myself. I am who I be. Like you like me, or we may not vibe, and that's okay. Um, but it gets hard with all the rejections. But anyways, point being, I did multiple interviews. I worked at it, and I thought I killed in like the last two. And like I promise you, I thought I got it. Um, Turns out I didn't, and it was funny because my I love doing this podcasting thing. So the way I thought about it was like, oh well, if you started a new job, it might get harder for you to do your podcasting anyways, because you're going to be up and you're going to be trying to get adjusted to something new. So maybe it's the universe telling you, Stephanie, just chill where you're currently at, continue working at the different crafts that you do, and just keep at it. And when that opportunity knocks on your door, it'll knock on your door. Like, um I'm gonna go a little bit Spanish really quick, but lo que está para ti nadie te lo quita. Like what's meant for you is meant for you, and I don't think like anything in the universe will take that away from you. um but yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah, to touch on what you said too, I think that in terms of changes, and in your case, like you made a change and you had some like a moment of silence, like a transitioning moment. I feel like a lot of people can relate to that when you're like, especially like work. Sometimes you are just in a place where you can't mentally like stand working at your job. So you take a leap of faith and you're like, okay, I'm leaving, whatever the case may be. And you have that moment of transition where you don't quite know what's going to happen. You don't quite know where you're going to
Hmm.
land. And it's like, what do I do with all this time? Because I felt the same way. Like I had so much time And it can be like so like imprisoning to have so much time, especially when you're so desperate for work, especially because obviously we need money to eat and to pay our bills. So it's not like some of us don't have the luxury of just like not working for months and being totally fine. Like we're like, no, we need this. But at the same time, it's like time is so valuable. And like when you look at it in that perspective, like you were saying, like, okay, right now it's my time. Like I have time right now. It's important to like be able to look at that in a positive way and be able to take advantage of time, especially time. Like you use that time to work on your crafts and to work on your projects and to work on stuff. And now you have a podcast, which is something that you've been wanting to do for a long time. And like time is it's not a waste. And I think it's hard for us to feel or to like understand the value of time when we feel like we have to work. Especially like in the culture that we come from. If you're Hispanic, like hard work is drilled in us, and it's like, if I'm not working, what am I doing? I'm wasting time. But time is not a waste. You can always invest your time into whatever it is that you're talented at or skilled at, and it's gonna benefit you in the end.
I also feel it's tied to like the achievement culture that we're in right now. Like the mindset that like if you're not working towards being better and being better and being better, instead of taking that moment of resting and just like, I feel like it's that too. It's like that social pressure of like you're constantly having to be better and having to one up yourself, that you don't have time to like savor that moment of like little things that you do accomplish. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, it's all connected to change. So our
Yeah.
advice is like, don't be afraid of change.
Change
Don't
is
be afraid of
change is
change.
important. Change happens whether you like it or not. Might as well it be something that you enjoy and something that you can find your positive in. There's always growth in change.
Yep. And we will get through it. As scary as it is, there's always something positive behind it.
Yeah.
I think our time is up.
I thought so too.
We had so much left to say. 10 minutes is not enough for us.
I know that is part of the challenge of the show.
It is so
You
challenging.
really got like right around 4 minutes. You really got into your rhythm, and I actually let you go 13 minutes because
Oh, no way.
yeah, that was
Oh my
fine. No,
gosh.
it wasn't. It was me. It was my choice as executive producer.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate
Because you
it.
really started to find a rhythm, and it is hard to like. You're starting from nothing. You got to introduce yourself. You got to set your expectations. So I'm gonna bring in the judges. Sarah and Zabe were also here as well. And Steph and Diana, tell us a little bit about how you feeling right now. How do you think that went as a 13-minute snippet of what your show really is?
I feel like we need to, when this is over, Stephanie and I need to go back and like finish this episode because we had so much left to say. We were just getting started. Like it's so hard to construct, especially because like Stephanie and I, we talk about things that are like much deeper. And it's hard to kind of summarize something that's like much more intricate in like such a short time frame. So that was definitely a challenge.
Well, let's Sarah and Zabe. What you were sitting backstage with me watching. What were some of your takeaways?
Thank you.
Good advice.
Yeah, I thought it was great too. I mean, change is happening around us constantly, and so I think that talking about important topics like that are really relatable. Number one, and you can really, all of us can draw from those, and all of us have had to go through change. So, kind of it's thought provoking. It makes you stop and think about maybe where you're at, where you're going, the goals that you want to set for yourself. So, yeah, I think that that's a great way to do the show.
I'll send you the link, Sam.
Well, let's go over. Let's see how the scores came in. I think you're going to be pretty pleased here. I've been looking backstage. Oh, Steph's eyes are lighting up. Here we go. We're going to pull them up. We had 10 votes,
Sweet.
10 people total. Now you're skewing a little bit higher than average, and this is what we want. This is the kind of scores. Remember, 5 is a very good score. You're skewing higher than average on audio quality. The hosts were engaging, the quality of content. And you can see the background of the photos too. That's actually the graph of how the votes actually came in. So, and then you're seeing the average point value. The content matched what you told us, right? You told us what we're going to see. And the production quality. It's a little bit hard here, doing a live show to really get the full production. But great. I mean, right down the middle. I think you scored very well. And those are the types of scores that we're looking for. And how do you feel about those so far? Do you feel a little relief?
I'm
Definitely.
ecstatic. Like, obviously,
We'll
we
take
need to work on things, and improve, but I'm glad we're meeting expectations. That's
There
what
we go.
that's
Meeting
what it's all about. It's expectations, and expectations in terms of like for the audience, right?
Yes.
Like I want to make it engaging for them, even though I'm a fool. I don't know about Diana, but I'm a fool for sure. I just want to make it engaging and fun for people to listen and tune in, and obviously, and I love Zabe's idea of like asking everybody questions. And I would love to at one point be able to do like those voice memo things where they can send us in their own stories and stuff like that. That would be so much fun. And so yeah.
And while you and Diana have known each other for a while, this is also a new podcast. This is a new endeavor that you're working on together. I think you're only 4 or 5 episodes into this so far.
Correct.
So to be hitting a stride already, that's nice work already. Let's go to the word cloud, see what came in on there. We're gonna pop out. This is some of the words. What we want is whatever you're thinking about when you put your scores in. Leave some words that stream of conscious, being vulnerable, inspirational, honest.
Passion.
The cat chair. I wonder who put that one in. Passion and relatable. But as the words get bigger, a couple people must have put inspirational. You have supportive and free flow and vibe, diverse, truthful. You got a lot of good comments coming in. And that's what we want. We want just people to think about when you put your score in. What are the first words that come to your mind? And there's some good words in there for you. And I'm going to give screenshots and scores back to each of you so you can have a little bit something to work with and know what to improve on. But any last final words for Sugar and Spice before you become the judge and you get to judge Zabe?
That's going to be fun.
Just thanks for having us, and thanks for the feedback and the time.
I appreciate this so much. We all first met on International Podcast Day, and now all 5 of us were actually there at International Podcast Day, and now we're doing other things and projects together. It's another great reason to connect with everybody and make connections. Podcasting is full of connections. Let's go to Zabe. Zabe, you and I have worked together as well on a few episodes. And you've been a guest on my show. I've been a guest on your show. What brought you here tonight besides me twisting your arm and asking you to be here?
There was no need to ever twist my arm to be something involved in anything you do, Jeff. I believe in you as a person, and I'm always happy to be here and support you in all the things you do.
Oh, I appreciate that. I am so glad you could join us tonight. And now, like my show, Zabe's is a little more complicated to produce in a live environment. So you can do a live segment, you can do a pre-recorded segment. And what we're going to have with Zabe is a 10-ish minutes of a pre-recorded segment of the Who Will Save Generation X podcast. And for people listening at home might not be familiar or their first experience here with you, tell us a little bit about this show. And how did it come together?
The show is at its heart just a game show that celebrates all the fun and cool pop culture things from Generation X. We typically have 2 guests that are hopefully best friends, and they go head to head in playing trivia games. And the winner of the game gets a prize at the end. But for this episode being only 10 minutes, we did our single player game, and there's no prizes, but you do earn a rank at the end of the quiz. So maybe not as cool as getting a garbage pail kid in the mail, card in the mail, but you still get a rank at the end, so you get a little something to at least hang your hat on for that. But it's just a fun time sharing stories, and we tell stupid jokes, and there's lots of in jokes, and once you listen to a couple of the episodes, you kind of see how things go, and I think everyone has a good time.
Yeah, having a good time was about. That's a hard thing to get through to somebody on a podcast. On an audio version, you're doing a video version here.
Yeah, we're not really a video type show, so those who are watching on the stream here, be gentle. We threw some production value in, but we're not television producers. We're just trying to do our best.
Well, speaking of watching and judging, I've just put up the new scoreboard for Who Will Save Generation X. You can scan the QR code that's on the screen if you're watching live, or in the chat, I put the link there. It's menti.com. And then you just type in that 8-digit code. You can go and you can start to give your scores, do a stream of conscious word cloud at the end here. And any final words, Abe?
Enjoy the show. I hope you guys like it.
All right, here we go. Here's the Who Will Save Generation X podcast, and we'll be back right after the show.
Hello, and welcome to Who Will Save Generation X, the trivia game show that is dedicated to remembering, celebrating, and preserving all the wonderful qualities of Generation X through games, trivia, and friends. I am Zabe, your host, and tonight the judges and I are honored to take part in the Rise and Outshine podcast showcase, brought to you by our friends who run the Poduty live events. Our show is normally about an hour long, and it's going to be tough to save our Gen X pop culture from being forgotten in just a 10-minute chunk of time. So we have a condensed version of our trivia game show for you to sample, and we welcome you to play along with us here tonight. It'll be more fun if you do for everyone. Here's how we play. Each episode, we invite a special guest and let them set the benchmark score for you to try and beat at home. Each round has a different game for you to try out, and at the end, you can compare your score with that of our special guest benchmark and earn your rank on the quiz. For those watching online, feel free to put your answers in the chat, and we'll check at the end of the episode to see who got the high score. Our special guest this episode is a longtime friend of mine, and this is his 5th appearance on the podcast since we started in 2021. He is a Gen Xer that knows all the punchlines from the movie Airplane by heart. Surely we don't have enough time to hear all of them now, but please welcome back to the show, Jason. Hi, Jason.
Hey, Zabe, it's good to be back, and we don't have time to hear all those, and don't call me Shirley.
So everyone grab a pen and paper and keep track of your score, and we'll see if you can outscore this highly knowledgeable Gen Xer or not. It's time to see if you can save Generation X from fading into oblivion.
Round 1.
Round 1 tonight is a game called
Tag.
Taglines Blowing Through My Mind is a game where I'll give you the tagline or slogan of a popular Gen X movie, and you need to tell me which movie the tagline is from. A good movie tagline should give you a quick glimpse at the plot of the movie, and that should give you all the clues you need to figure out each movie here. Movie 1 is from 1992. IMDb calls this PG-13 movie a musical comedy. It has a supporting cast that includes Rob Lowe, Alice Cooper, and Chris Farley. The tagline is, "You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll hurl."
Wayne's World.
Wayne's World's correct. Well done. It's 1 point for you. Normally we have fun facts and share stories about the answers on the regular episodes, but we just don't have enough time here on the showcase. But let's move on to our next tagline. Movie number 2 came out in 1980. IMDb calls this an R-rated sports comedy flick. It has a supporting cast that includes Brian Doyle Murray, John Murray, and Bill Murray. The tagline is, "The snobs against the slobs."
Caddyshack.
Caddyshack, of course, is correct. Well done. I feel like that was too easy for you.
A little.
And the last movie of the round is listed as a 1993 PG comedy drama fantasy. It has a supporting cast that includes Chris Elliott, Brian Doyle Murray, and Stephen Tobolowsky. The tagline is, he's having the day of his life over and over again.
Oh. Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day is correct. Well done. You swept that round, Jason. Well done. In the clues, did you recognize the name of veteran character actor Stephen Tobolowsky? You might know him better as Ned Ryerson, a.k.a. Ned the Head, Needle-Nosed Ned, or Ned the Bull.
Round 2.
Round 2 this episode is our trivia round. Each correct answer is worth 1 point. Good luck.
Thank you.
This question is called Fonz Got Eaten by a Shark? Question mark. It is a television question. Everyone knows the phrase jumping the shark and its origins from the TV sitcom Happy Days. The phrase is used to indicate that a previously successful show has made a massive misstep which will lead to its downfall. But this is ironic considering how long Happy Days lasted after Fonzie literally jumped a shark. Here's your question. In what season did the infamous scene take place? Is it A, season 3, B, season 5, C, season 7, D, season 9, or is it E, season 69?
69, dudes!
I know it definitely wasn't the last one. I'm going to say season 5.
Season 5 is correct. Well done. Nice stab.
It was a stab.
I saw it in your eyes. The next question is called Promise Me You're Not Going to Stop This Fight, which is a movie question. These are Apollo Creed's final words to Rocky. He said in Rocky 4, moments before he's struck dead in the ring by Ivan Drago. Wearing his iconic American flag boxing gear, Apollo dances into the match while which American singer performs live? Was it A, Bruce Springsteen singing Born in the USA? B, James Brown singing Living in America? C, Michael Jackson singing Don't Stop Till You Get Enough? D, Neil Diamond singing Coming to America? Or is it E, the Queen song, Another One Bites the Dust?
Oh my goodness. I think it was James Brown.
You think?
Yes.
You think correctly. Well done. It was James Brown. Option B, James Brown, while maybe the most influential human in the history of funk music, hadn't had his top 40 single since 1974. That is, until the release of the 1985 single, Living in America. In a famous interview with CNN, they talked about the resurgence of his career, to which he replied,
And what are you going to say to your fans when they ask you some questions about it?
I'm going to say I feel good. Papa's got a brand new bag. It's a man's world. Sex machine, get up off of that thing. Living in America. I feel good. Jam. Nothing wrong.
Here's the final question of the round. It's called From the Files of Police Squad. It is a movie question. The Naked Gun was a movie continuation of the TV show Police Squad. The climax of the movie is centered on the police squad's assignment to provide security during Queen Elizabeth's visit to Los Angeles. It is during this visit that Lieutenant Frank Drebin has his final confrontation at an Angels baseball game with villain Vincent Ludwig, who is played by the great Ricardo Montalban. Here's your question. When Ludwig is shot by Frank Drebin, Ludwig falls over a stadium railing to the street below, is hit by a bus, rolled flat by a steamroller, and then A, is peed on by a golden retriever, B, is stomped on by the British roll of cards wearing those big silly hats, C, is trampled on by the USC marching band while they play Louie Louie, or is it D, activates the Genesis device and dies quoting Moby Dick?
That would be C. He's stomped on by the USC marching band.
That is correct. At the end of the scene, Frank consoles his partner Ed, who witnessed the elaborate death, who is clearly shaken up because his father died the same way. I love that movie. Let's move on to round 3.
Round 3.
Our last game of the evening is a brand new game for the podcast, because when you only have 10 minutes to perform your podcast game show, is a really great idea to introduce something new and unproven into the equation. Here we go. It was pointed out to us by a listener that we can't call ourselves truly a game show unless we have some sort of lightning round. So tonight we're going to fix that. The game is I have a list of fill-in-the-blank statements, and you'll have 1 minute to score 1 point for each correct answer given within the time limit. We call this game, What the Blank?
What the fuck? Blank.
If you get stuck, say pass, and we'll come back to it if there's enough time. The list has a theme to help you out. And tonight's theme is movie quotes from Back to the Future. Your time will begin after I finish reading the first question. 1.21 blank.
Gigawatts.
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me you built a time machine out of a blank?
DeLorean.
Where we're going, we don't need blank.
Roads.
I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet, but your blank are going to love it.
Kids.
My name is Darth Vader. I'm an extraterrestrial from the planet blank.
Pass.
I'm your blank. I mean, your destiny.
Density.
Why don't you make a blank and get out of here?
Tree.
Hey, you, get your blank hands off her.
Damn.
You want a Pepsi Pal, you're going to blank for it.
Pay for it.
If you put your mind to it, you can accomplish blank.
Oh, pass.
Okay, go back to when he passed on. My name is Darth Vader. I'm an extraterrestrial from the planet.
I don't remember what planet it was.
It was the planet Vulcan.
Oh, I was about to say Voltron.
Voltron, no. Voltron's not a planet. And number 10 is, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
So I missed the most obvious one out of all of it.
Well, I set that one up at the very end so that you would feel bad if you got it wrong, that you didn't set your mind to it and you didn't accomplish all 10. However, hey, 8 out of 10 is fantastic.
Oh, it could say a lot about me and how pathetic a life I have that I know all of that.
Jason, first, thanks so much for lending your time and talents to the podcast. Is there anything you'd like to plug before we hand out the ranks?
I'd love to plug my wife's new book that just came out. We've learned a lot as we raised 2 boys, and we know how hard it is for kids to learn how to calm themselves when they experience big emotions. My wife co-authored a book, a social emotional learning book called Big Deal, Little Deal. You could buy it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or by visiting www.bigdeallittledeal.com, and it's perfect for parents and teachers alike.
Rad. We'll throw a link into the show notes so people can pick up that book.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Do you remember your score? This episode, we're using the simplified Back to the Future scoring system for grading the quiz. Let's go to the ranks. Jason set our benchmark at an incredible 14 points out of a possible 16. That's amazing. Well done, Jason. So if you scored more than 14 points, that gives you the rank of the coolest, most amazing character in the entire movie. That's right. I'm talking about the Time Machine DeLorean. Okay, maybe it wasn't really a true character by definition, but show me one person that's ever seen this movie that didn't daydream about driving 88 miles per hour in this car. Possibly the greatest Gen X vehicle of all time, the DeLorean gets the top ranks on the quiz, as do you for doing your part to save Generation X. Well done. If you match Jason's score of 14 points, then you still pass the quiz and gain the rank of Calvin Klein.
That is your name, isn't it? Calvin Klein?
Marty McFly. The main protagonist of the movie was everything that Eric Stoltz wasn't. If you know, you know. Michael J. Fox reserved a special place in the hearts of every Gen Xer with this film, and he hit all the right notes in this classic flick. If you scored less than Jason's benchmark of 14, well, I'm afraid that's a failing grade, and that gives you the rank of simply the Libyans. The Libyans! Doc Brown unfairly labeled this group of terrorists by naming them solely by their country of origin. And I'm sure there were plenty of non-terrorists living in Libya at the time, but it was the 80s, and these creeps were planning on setting off a nuke, and they just so happened to be from Libya. Our apologies to the many, many listeners we have in Libya tuning into this episode, but if you came in below the benchmark, then this is your rank, and I hope you enjoy your box of broken pinball machine parts. Try again in the next episode of The Home Game and see if you can get a passing grade. Well, that's it for this edition of The Home Game. Thanks to all of you for listening wherever you are, especially Libya. If you have any questions, comments, or would like to sign up to become a guest on the show, you can email me at whowillsavegenx@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your feedback and invite you to become a friend of the show. It was awesome to be here at the Rise and Outshine podcast showcase. We hope you will subscribe to our show for future episodes. But until then, we'll be back with our next episode of the podcast, where we will once again ask the question, who will save Generation X? Later. Oh boy.
I'm going to bring all my judges back in. Zabe with a pre-recorded show. Very well done. Again, you said this is
Yeah.
normally a 60-minute show, and you
Yeah, at least. Well,
found
normally
a-
it's 1 hour and 9 minutes is usually how long it runs for. But
that's historic average.
that's the historic average, 1 hour and 9 minutes.
No, well, how do you think you were able to adjust to the 10-minute format? Was how much
horribly, but we did our best. I like to call myself the unofficial world's most edited podcast, and it took a lot of editing to get that down to even 13 minutes. But we're just having a good time.
Sounds good. Steph, Diana, Sarah, you want to chime in? When you were watching the show, what kind of reactions, emotions, were you laughing? Did you enjoy
I was
the content?
cracking up. I was nonstop cracking up. That was awesome.
Every trivia I end up in, Jeff, I just end up in the low rates of those things. So, I need to watch more movies apparently.
Yeah. I learned that I know not much about this generation, but
How
it was
well did you
fun.
guys do in the game? What was your score? I want to hear it.
Oh, I don't think I got any right.
So round 1, I failed miserably. Round 2, I was taking jabs, and I was actually getting them right. The lightning round, I got I couldn't believe that he didn't get the last one, the anything.
Yeah.
He couldn't do anything. It's come on.
That's probably the only one I figured, but
yeah.
8 out of 10 is still a good score. Yeah, I tried to make it accessible this episode for people who aren't, Gen Xers and grew up with all this kind of stuff. But, it's hard to get the difficulty just right for everybody.
So yeah, accessible as long as you've seen Back to the Future, right?
Right. About 100 times.
Well, let's go over to those. Anybody else have anything else they wanted to add to the show, or we can go right to the scores. Let's see. How do you think you did?
Voltron versus Vulcan. What? I was what? Vulcan, Voltron, Power Rangers over here. Sorry, I'm done.
Dun 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 dun. And we skewed a little bit above average there. We had audio quality. The engaging hosts scored about a 6. The quality of the content, it matched the expectation. And the production quality production quality will give you a little bit of bonus point because the pre-recording is a little different than live. But Zabe, how do you feel about those scores? Knowing a 5 is a very good average score, and you skewed a little bit above that.
Yeah, I'm happy with that for sure. I was hoping to get at least 6.9 out of the group, but it didn't quite work out, and it just means I got to go back to the drawing board and do a little better.
We'll Photoshop that for the historic record.
Thank you.
And let's go over to that word cloud. I can only imagine what this group. We had 16 total responses put in here, and they got. You can only guess what your number one
Nice.
was the 69, which is an inside joke from a show that you don't. I don't know if you ever want to say that number, but it comes up quite often. You got fun and engaging, a couple of BTTFs. The hello made it your opening hello.
Nice.
James Brown, lightning round, lighthearted. That was a good one. Needle Nose Ned made an appearance. Great sound effects, pop culture. Don't call me Shirley.
Nice.
Cat chair. Somebody put in the cat chair made it. Steph's cat chair made it back into this show as well. And so I will give these word clouds back. It's something just for you. This is what people think about when they watch your show. It's just a fun little thing that we're adding on to the scores. And it's a great little, you had 37 total responses on this one.
Nice.
I think I went through, Hurl made it too. Another, I was Bill, it's Wayne's World. So, hey, great job. Zabe, how do you feel overall? Getting the scores, getting the word cloud, and getting through it?
Well, seeing the scores from Sugar and Spice and a little advice, and seeing my scores for the show, I think it's very obvious who the winner was, and that is the cat chair.
Okay.
100%. I tip my hat to you, cat chair.
Thank you.
Oh, it isn't a battle.
Thank you, cat chair.
It's not like a rap battle. But I want to appreciate and thank my guests one more time. I'm so grateful to be able to do this and really showcase podcasters, up and coming podcasters, new podcasts, talking about what we're doing, sharing what we're doing, and building on that. That's really what this show is about. It's called Rise and Outshine for a reason. We're here to support each other. We want to make our shows the best we can, and not only a live format, but maybe you could take this to a stage or to a local club or a bar or somewhere and do these shows live. We got to keep up the good work from one of our judges, Sarah, giving us a good work. A lot of comments came in the whole night. We'll go back through and read them. But Steph and Diana, sugar and spice and a little advice, and Zabe, who will save Generation Next podcast. And one final plug, because we do have a judge with the show. Sarah, real quick, how can everybody find your show, and when are you going to do your 10 minutes?
Ooh, right? Okay, I'll do a 10 minutes here soon enough. You can find my show on anywhere. sjchilds.org is my website, and you can go check that out and find the links and clicks to everything.
The links and the clicks and the everything else. The SJ Child Show, Who Will Save Generation X, sugar and spice and a little advice. Until next time, we'll see you next time, because
We're asking the experts, we're all on a mission to rise in the rankings and outshine the competition. Welcome to Rise and Outshine.
Later.